Commander Jiho pressed his face against the cold glass of the observation deck. 3 months had passed since the last human transmission ended in screams and static. Now their entire section of the galaxy was dark and silent. "Sir, I'm running." Another scan of human space. Lieutenant Mina called from her workstation. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic controls, but the results never changed. Still nothing. No ships, no communications, no life signs. It's like they just ... vanished. Jiho nodded grimly. He had served alongside humans during the border wars 5 years ago. They were tough fighters, stubborn and clever in ways that often surprised their alien allies. But even humans had limits, and the plague that hit them was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The disease had been swift and merciless. It started in the outer colonies, where human families had built new lives on distant worlds. Within weeks, entire planets went silent. The plague moved inward, like a wave of death, consuming everything in its path. By the time it reached the core worlds, panic had spread faster than the disease itself. Ambassador Keth walked across the deck, his 6 legs clicking against the metal floor. The Veltari diplomat had never hidden his contempt for humans, viewing them as weak newcomers to galactic civilization. Now, with humanity apparently extinct, his satisfaction was obvious. "The final count shows 47 human worlds have gone silent," Keth announced, his mandibles clicking with what his species considered amusement. 17 colonies, 23 settled worlds, and 7 core systems, including their precious Earth, all dead within 6 months. Mina looked up from her console with troubled eyes. "The speed of it doesn't make sense, sir. Even the worst plagues in galactic history took years to spread between star systems. This one jumped from world to world like it had its own transportation." "Inferior immune systems?" Keth replied dismissively. "Humans evolved on a single world with limited disease exposure. They were always vulnerable to a properly engineered pathogen. The only surprise is that it took this long for someone to exploit that weakness." Jiho felt a chill at those words. "You think this plague was artificial?" "Of course it was artificial." Keth's mandibles spread wide in what might have been a grin. "No natural disease moves that quickly or targets genetic markers." "So precisely. Someone wanted humanity eliminated, and they succeeded admirably." The commander turned back to the window, staring out at the dark regions where human worlds once glowed with life and activity. Ships from various galactic powers were already moving into those empty systems, claiming territory and resources that no longer belonged to anyone. "Captain Doyen's last message still bothers me," Mina said quietly. "He was requesting medical supplies for the quarantine stations, but then his transmission just cut off. Not gradually, not with interference. Patterns? It just stopped, like someone threw a switch." Jiho remembered that transmission clearly. Captain Doyen had been one of the more reasonable human officers, always willing to work with alien allies during joint operations. His final words had been urgent but controlled, reporting that they had found something important about the plagues. "Origins, then nothing. Dead is dead," Keth stated firmly. Their final words changed nothing. "What matters now is proper distribution of their former territories. The hegemony has already claimed the most valuable systems. But there are still profitable worlds available for colonization." "Seems wrong somehow," Mina muttered. 3 months ago they were our allies. Now we're dividing up their homes like they never existed." "Sentiment is a luxury we cannot afford," Keth replied coldly. "Empty worlds serve no one. Better to put them to productive use than leave them as monuments to failure." Jiho watched a hegemony transport convoy moving toward what used to be the human colony of New Busan. The ships were loaded with colonists eager to claim land that had been cleared for them by plague and death. Within a year, these worlds would have new names, new populations, new purposes. The humans who had lived and died there would be forgotten. "Lieutenant, have you detected any unusual energy signatures in former human space?" Jiho asked suddenly. Mina checked her readings again. "There have been some strange fluctuations, sir. Very faint. Probably just automated systems shutting down. Nothing that suggests active technology or life," probably Jiho repeated. That word carried more weight than he liked. During the border wars, humans had shown an annoying tendency to survive in situations where survival should have been impossible. They called it stubbornness. Their enemies called it luck. But Jiho had learned to call it dangerous. Ambassador Keth moved toward the exit, his business apparently concluded. I will be filing the final extinction report with the Galactic Council tomorrow. Humanity will be officially declared extinct and removed from all active databases. Their chapter in galactic history is closed. As the alien diplomat left, Jiho continued staring into the darkness where human civilization once thrived. Something felt wrong about this entire situation. The plague had been too perfect to complete. The silence that followed felt less like death and more like, "Sir." Mina's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Nothing, Lieutenant. Continue monitoring. And keep those unusual energy readings in your active files." "Yes, sir." "Should I be looking for anything specific?" Jiho was quiet for a long moment, watching. The empty space where millions of humans had once lived, worked, and dreamed of futures that would never come. "I'm not sure yet, but keep watching." Captain Wanbin had been salvaging scrap metal for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. His freight hauler drifted slowly through the Kepler sector, where 3 human mining stations floated like dead metal bones in the darkness. The plague had hit this sector hard 6 months ago, leaving behind empty facilities and valuable equipment. "Jinsu, bring us closer to the main processing station," Wanbin called to his pilot. "Those refiners should fetch good prices at the Veltari markets." The young pilot guided their ship toward the largest station. It was a massive structure, built to process asteroids into pure metals for human colonies. Now it was just another piece of expensive junk floating in space, waiting for someone brave enough to claim it. "Captain, I'm getting some weird readings," called Yunji from the sensor station. "There's something big moving out there in deep space. Really big." Wanbin walked over to look at her displays. The energy signature was enormous, larger than anything he had ever seen. It was moving slowly through the dark space between star systems, where no ships normally traveled. "Kind of ship puts out that much power?" Jinsu asked nervously. "No ship I know of," Wanbin replied. "Even the Council's biggest dreadnoughts don't register that strong. Let's take a closer look." But when they turned their ship toward the mysterious signature, it simply vanished. One moment the sensors showed something massive moving through space. The next moment, there was nothing but empty darkness. "Where did it go?" Yunji asked, checking her equipment. The signature just disappeared completely, like it was never there. Wanbin felt a cold chill run down his spine. In 15 years of salvage work, he had learned to trust his instincts. And right now his instincts were screaming that something was very wrong. 3 sectors away, Trader Huna was having her own disturbing experience. She had arrived at the human colony of New Jeju, expecting to find the usual aftermath of plague bodies, abandoned equipment, and valuable supplies left behind by the dead. Instead, she found something much stranger. The colony was completely empty, but not in the way she expected. The buildings were intact and undamaged. The streets were clean. The power was still running. But every single piece of useful technology had been carefully removed. "This doesn't look like a plague site," her partner Minsu observed as they walked through the eerily quiet streets. "It looks like an evacuation," Huna nodded, examining the empty shops and homes. "Look at this. It took all the computers, all the communication equipment, all the manufacturing tools. But they left the furniture, the decorations, the personal items. Who evacuates like that?" They knew the plague was coming and tried to save what they could. "Then where are the bodies?" Huna asked. "A colony this size should have at least 50,000 people. Even if most evacuated, some would have stayed behind. Some would have been too sick to move. But there's nothing here. No bodies, no graves. No medical waste. It's like everyone just vanished." They continued their search, but every building told the same story. Careful, methodical removal of technology and equipment, but everything else left behind as if the owners planned to return someday. The most frightening report came from the Outer Rim, where Pirate Captain Kang Min thought he had found easy prey. His crew specialized in raiding abandoned facilities, and a human research station should have been defenseless and full of valuable scientific equipment. It's a small station, boss, reported his first mate Sunhone. No active defenses, no ships in the area. Should be simple. Kungman smiled grimly. Good, the humans always had the best research equipment. We'll strip this place clean and sell everything to the black market dealers. Their ship docked with the research station without any problems. The airlock opened easily, and they encountered no resistance as they moved through the corridors. But something felt wrong from the moment they stepped inside. The lights are still on, observed crew member Yujin nervously. And I can hear the computers running. Why would everything still be powered up? At bit, people don't pay electric bills, Kangman replied, but his usual confidence was shaken. The station felt too clean, too organized for a place where everyone had died from plague. They reached the main computer lab and began trying to access the research databases. These files would be worth millions on the black market. Human medical research, weapons development, advanced engineering projects. But when Sung-hoon plugged his data extractor into the main terminal, every screen in the room suddenly displayed the same message in bright red letters: "We see you." What the hell? Kangman stepped back from the computers. Is that some kind of security system? Before anyone could answer, every system on their ship began shutting down. Life support, engines, navigation, communications, everything went dark simultaneously. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting strange shadows through the research station. Boss, we need to go. Now, Yujin said, his voice shaking with fear. They ran back to their ship, abandoning any thought of salvage. It took 3 hours of emergency repairs to get their systems working again. When they finally limped away from the research station, Kangman was a changed man. They're not all dead, he told his crew. I don't know what's happening out there, but the humans aren't all dead. Back at the Galactic Council, these reports were causing heated debate. Ambassador Keth insisted that the incidents were just malfunctioning human technology and the overactive imaginations of criminals and traitors. But Commander, Jiho was beginning to see a pattern. The massive energy signatures, the carefully evacuated colonies, the active computer systems, it all pointed to one impossible conclusion. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity was still alive. Captain Taeyong had seen many dead worlds during his career with the Galactic Council, but Earth was different. His research vessel moved slowly through the Sol system, scanning the planet that had once been home to 8 billion humans. The silence from Earth was absolute, just like all the other human worlds. But something felt wrong about this particular silence. Captain, I'm reading normal atmospheric conditions, reported sensor operator Ji-Wan. Oxygen levels are stable. Weather patterns are normal, but there are no life signs anywhere on the planet. Taeyong studied the images on his main screen. Earth's cities were clearly visible from orbit, massive urban centers that should have been bustling with activity. Instead, they look like perfectly preserved museums, empty but undamaged. Take us into low orbit, he ordered. I want detailed scans of the major population centers. Dr. Yuna, the ship's expert in studying dead civilizations, was already examining the data. She had spent years analyzing the remains of extinct species. But Earth presented a unique puzzle. This is very strange, Captain, she said, pointing to her readings. Most plague sites show signs of social collapse, damaged buildings, fires, abandoned vehicles in the streets. But Earth's cities look like everyone just walked away. The buildings are intact, the infrastructure is still functional, even the parks are well maintained. Maybe they had time to evacuate before the plague hit, suggested pilot Seojin. 8 billion people don't just evacuate a planet, Yuna replied. And evacuate too? Where? We've checked every human colony. They're all empty too. As they orbited Earth, the mystery deepened. The planet's surface was covered with strange geometric patterns, massive excavation sites that had been carved into the ground with incredible precision. The patterns were too regular to be natural, too complex to be accidental. These excavations are everywhere, Giwan reported. Every continent has them. They're all following the same mathematical pattern, like pieces of a giant puzzle. Dr. Yunus studied the patterns carefully. They were mining something specific.
Look at these formations.
They're not random digging sites. Each excavation follows a precise geometric sequence. Whatever they were looking for, they needed enormous quantities of it. Mining for what? Taeyong asked. I don't know. But they moved billions of tons of material. This level of excavation would require massive equipment and thousands of workers. Yet there's no sign of machinery, no waste dumps, no processing facilities. It's like they dug up half the planet and then vanished with everything they found. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Communications officer Kung Zu was running routine sensor sweeps when he detected something that shouldn't have been there, a tiny object moving through space near their ship. Captain, Kai tracking a small object about 2 kilometers off our starboard side. It's very small, maybe the size of a coffee cup, but it's definitely artificial. Taeyong frowned. Could it be debris from one of the human stations? No, sir. It's maintaining a steady position relative to our ship, and it's actively scanning us. The implications hit Taeyong immediately. You mean it's watching us? Yes, sir. It's been shadowing us since we entered the system. I only detected it because it adjusted its position when we changed course. Capturing the probe required careful maneuvering. The tiny device was incredibly agile, using technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. It could accelerate instantly, change direction, without slowing down, and seemed almost impossible to track on sensors. Got it, announced pilot Seojin after a tense chase. Whatever this thing is, it's using technology I've never seen before. When they brought the probe aboard, Dr. Yuna's analysis revealed something that shook the entire crew. The device was filled with advanced technology that surpassed anything in the galactic database. Its power source was completely unknown. Its materials were stronger than anything they had encountered, and its stealth capabilities were decades ahead of Council. Technology. But the most disturbing discovery was in the probe's memory banks. Captain Kung Su said, his voice barely a whisper. This thing has detailed files on all of us. Complete service records, family histories, psychological profiles. God knows. Everything about our ship, our weapons, our mission parameters. Taeyong looked at the data files with growing alarm. The probe had information that should have been classified at the highest levels. Personal details that weren't in any official database. Private information that could only have been gathered through years of careful observation. How long has this thing been watching us? He asked. According to the data logs, it's been tracking our ship for the past 3 years, Kung Su replied. It has records of every mission we've flown, every port we've visited, every person we've met. The deeper they dug into the probe's memory, the more frightening the picture became. The device contained detailed intelligence on dozens of Council ships, complete strategic analysis of every major galactic power, and comprehensive maps of military installations throughout known space. They have been watching everyone, Dr. Yuna said in amazement. This isn't just surveillance of our ship. They have intelligence on the entire galactic community. But the final revelation was the most shocking of all. Hidden in the probe's deepest memory banks were construction logs, population records, and fleet manifests that painted an impossible picture. Captain Kung Su said, his hands shaking as he read the files. According to these records, humanity isn't extinct. They've been building something in deep space. Hidden construction sites, mobile cities, manufacturing facilities, and their fleet. He paused, checking the numbers again. Their fleet is larger than the combined navies of every species in the Galactic Council. Taeyong stared at the data. In disbelief? For months, the galaxy had been dividing up human territory, assuming that humanity was extinct.
Ow.
But instead of dying, they had been watching, learning, and building something unprecedented in galactic history. We need to get this information to the Council immediately, he said. But as they prepared to leave the Sol system, Kung Su detected something that made his blood run cold. Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. Multiple contacts, moving fast. The humans were coming home. Admiral Jinwoo had commanded the Galactic Council's largest fleets for 20 years. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for what appeared on his long-range sensors. The readings were so impossible that He ordered his crew to check their equipment 3 times before accepting what they were seeing. "Sir, the sensors are working perfectly," reported his chief technician Borum. "What we're detecting is real. There's an entire solar system moving through deep space, and it's artificial." Ginwu studied the display with growing disbelief. The object was massive beyond comprehension, not a single structure, but a complex arrangement of rings, spheres, and geometric shapes that seemed to orbit around artificial stars. It was moving through the void between galaxies at incredible speed, yet maintaining perfect formation. "How is that even possible?" asked his second-in-command. "Captain Aeon, you can't just build stars and move them around like ships." "Apparently you can," Jinwu replied grimly. "And humanity has done exactly that." The Council's reconnaissance fleet approached carefully, their sensors working overtime to analyze what they were seeing. The artificial solar system was even more incredible up close. Massive ring structures surrounded glowing energy sources that provided heat and light, like real stars. Each ring was the size of a planet, rotating slowly to provide gravity for the cities built on their inner surfaces. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive population centers on those rings," reported scanner operator Hyman. "The readings suggest billions of people living in what appears to be perfect environmental conditions." "Billions?" Jinwu asked in shock.
How many humans were there before the plague?
Official records showed approximately 12 billion humans across all their colonies. Nain replied, "But these readings suggest even more people than that." Lieutenant Hound, the fleet's tactical officer, was studying the defensive capabilities of the human construction. What she found made her voice shake with fear. "Admiral, we're looking at the largest military fleet in galactic history. Conservative estimate puts their numbers at 50,000 combat vessels, and those are just the ones our sensors can detect." 50,000 ships? Jinwu repeated. "The entire Council fleet has less than 10,000 vessels. Sir, their technology is completely beyond anything we've seen. These ships don't use conventional propulsion. They seem to manipulate space itself to move. Their defensive systems are absorbing energy blasts that should have destroyed them completely." To demonstrate, Hound showed him test recordings from smaller Council ships that had tried to scan the human fleet more closely. When the human vessels detected the intrusion, they had fired warning shots that completely overwhelmed the smaller ships' defenses without actually destroying them. "They're not trying to hurt us," Hound observed. "They could have destroyed our scouts easily, but they just disabled them and sent them away. It's like they're saying we could kill you, but we choose not to." The manufacturing complexes were equally impressive. Enormous structures the size of moons were constantly producing new ships, equipment, and materials. The scale of production was staggering. Humanity was building new vessels faster than some species could build ground vehicles. "How did they manage all this?" Neon asked in amazement. 3 years ago, they were barely keeping up with Council technology. Now, they're decades ahead of us. "Desperation," Jinwu replied. "When you're facing extinction, you either die or evolve."
No.
Humanity chose to evolve. Scanner operator Che-Yung suddenly looked up from her console with alarm. "Admiral, we're being scanned. Their sensors are analyzing our ships in complete detail." "What kind of information are they gathering?" Jinwu asked. "Everything, sir. Ship specifications, crew records, weapons capabilities, even our personal communication logs. The scan is so detailed that they probably know what we had for breakfast this morning." The implications were terrifying. If humanity could analyze Council technology so thoroughly, they knew exactly how to defeat it. Every weakness, every vulnerability, every tactical limitation was now in human hands. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission, communications officer," Dongman announced. "It's from the human fleet." The message was simple and direct. Human voice, calm and professional, spoke in perfect galactic standard language. "Council vessels, you are welcome to observe. But do not approach within 10,000 kilometers of our civilian populations. We have no intention of harming you, but we will defend our people if necessary." "Should we respond?" Dongman asked. Before Jinwu could answer, another message arrived. This one contained detailed files about every Council species, their military capabilities, political structures, and strategic weaknesses. The analysis was so complete that it read like a tactical manual for conquering the entire galaxy. "They're not threatening us," Neon observed. "They're showing us that they could threaten us if they wanted to." The final piece of the puzzle came when they detected movement throughout the artificial solar system. Smaller fleets were breaking away from the main structure, heading toward different parts of the galaxy. Each fleet was larger than most planetary defense forces. "Are they going?" Jinwoo asked. Lieutenant Hound checked the trajectory calculations. "They're heading for former human space, sir. Every system that used to belong to humanity. They're going home," Jinwoo realized. After 3 years of exile, they're ready to reclaim their territory. As the Council fleet watched in awe and terror, humanity's impossible creation continued its journey through space. The artificial solar system moved with purpose and determination, carrying billions of people toward a confrontation that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. "What do we do now?" Neon asked. Jinwoo stared at the display showing humanity's incredible achievement. "We warn the Council, and we pray that humanity remembers who their friends used to be." Governor Sungmin was enjoying his morning coffee on the balcony of his new mansion when the sky above New Kyoto suddenly filled with ships, hundreds of them appearing without warning like ghosts, materializing from thin air. The vessels were sleek and dark, unlike anything in the hegemony fleet, and they hung in the atmosphere with impossible silence. "Sir, we have a problem." Junho burst through the door, his face pale with fear. "Unknown ships have appeared above the colony. Our sensors didn't detect them approaching." Scoomman set down his coffee cup with shaking hands. "Unknown ships? What do you mean unknown?" "Run their identification codes." "That's the problem, sir. They're not responding to our hails, and their design doesn't match any ship in our databases." "But, sir, they're human ships." "Possible," Sungmin snapped. "The humans are extinct. I've been living on their former colony for 2 years. Dead." "Species don't build fleets." Before Junho could respond, every communication device in the mansion activated simultaneously. Screens, speakers, even the emergency broadcast system, all carried the same message. The voice was calm, professional, and terrifyingly familiar. "This is Captain Do Yoon of the Human Defense Fleet. You are currently occupying human territory. You have 24 hours to evacuate all personnel and equipment from this system." Sungmen stared at the nearest screen in disbelief. The man speaking wore a human military uniform, but that was impossible. Captain Doyan had been the last human voice anyone had heard before their species went extinct. His desperate final transmission had been requesting medical aid for plague victims. "The humans are extinct," Sungmin shouted at the screen. "This system was legally transferred to the hegemony under galactic salvage laws. We have official documentation." The response was immediate and chilling. 23 hours, 59 minutes. Panic spread through the colony like wildfire. Hegemony citizens who had spent 2 years building new lives on the former human world suddenly found themselves under threat from the planet's original owners. The irony was not lost on anyone. They had come here because it was safe, because the humans were dead and gone. "Contact the hegemony fleet," Sungmin ordered. "Tell them we need immediate military support." The hegemony's response was swift and confident. Admiral Chang Ho arrived within hours with a battle group of 12 warships, confident that any human survivors could be easily dealt with. The hegemony had some of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy, and their ships were designed to crush any opposition, tension human vessels. Admiral Chang Ho broadcast to the silent fleet above New Kyoto. "You are vastly outnumbered. Surrender now, and we will consider allowing you to settle in designated refugee zones." The human response was not what anyone expected. Instead of surrendering or fleeing, the human ships simply waited. They hung in space like patient predators, their weapon systems inactive, but their presence menacing. "Admiral, they're not responding to our warnings," reported the hegemony tactical officer. "Should we open fire?" "Yes. Show them what happens when they threaten hegemony territory." The first hegemony ship to fire found its weapon system shutting. Down the moment it tried to target the human fleet, the massive energy cannons that could destroy asteroids simply stopped working, as if someone had reached inside the ship and turned off the power. "What's happening?" Admiral Cheng-ho demanded. "Why aren't our weapons firing?" "I don't know, sir. All systems show normal operation, but nothing happens when we try to shoot. It's like the weapons are being controlled by someone else."
One by
one, every hegemony ship in the battle group experienced the same problem. Their weapons wouldn't fire, their shields flickered and failed, and their engines began operating at reduced power. The human fleet hadn't fired a single shot, but they had somehow taken control of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. "This is impossible," Admiral Cheng-ho whispered. "How are they doing this?" The answer came from Captain Do-Yan's voice, broadcast across all frequencies. "Your technology is based on principles we helped develop during our alliance. We know how it works because we taught you how to build it. Evacuate now while you still can." The evacuation of New Kyoto was swift and complete. Hegemony colonists abandoned their homes, their investments, and their dreams of a new life. They left behind carefully tended gardens, half-built cities, and 2 years of hard work. But they left alive, which was more than they had expected once they realized the humans were not extinct. Similar scenes played out across dozens of former human worlds. Species that had moved into empty human territory found themselves facing the original owners, who had returned with technology that made resistance meaningless. The humans didn't destroy the new colonies, they simply made it clear that staying was not an option. Within one standard week, humanity had reclaimed a system that had once been theirs. Not through warfare, not through negotiation, but through a demonstration of power so complete that opposition became pointless. The final message came to the Galactic Council itself. Their most secure meeting chamber, protected by layers of shields and guards, suddenly contained a human woman who had appeared without triggering any alarms. She was young, confident, and smiled with the quiet assurance of someone who held absolute power. "Honored council members," Ambassador Ye-Jin began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber without any amplification. "You declared us extinct? You celebrated our silence. You divided our homes among yourselves like we had never existed." The massive chamber, which usually echoed with the voices of dozens of species, was completely silent. But our silence was not death. It was preparation. "And now we have returned."